All right, everybody, I think we're back online. Apologies for the inconvenience. I will go through myself, the introduction again, because it is important that we document this for live streaming purposes. Good evening, everybody, both in the chamber and online right now, and welcome to tonight's council meeting. Council certainly wants to acknowledge the Wadawurrung people as the traditional owners of the land, waterways and skies in which we meet today. We pay our respects to all elders past and present, and we acknowledge all an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the greater Geelong community today. We also have some special guests in the audience, so we'd certainly like to acknowledge the attendance of former MP Lisa Neville, the member for Corangamite, Libby Coker, the member for Lara, Ella George, the new member for Bellarine, Alison Marchant, Christine Cousins, the member for Geelong, former MP Ian Trezise in the crowd, and we have representatives from Darren Cheeseman and Gail Tierney as well. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for your attendance this evening. This meeting is being broadcast on the internet, and the recording of the meeting will be published on Council's website. So good evening, everybody. My name is Trent Sullivan, and as the Mayor for the Greater Geelong Council, I'll be chairing the January Council meeting tonight. I'd like to welcome everybody to City Hall in person and everybody who is streaming online with us. Tonight is the first council meeting for 2023, and there's been a lot happening already for the crowd of our community so far. We're coming off an incredible weekend of major events, such as the Cadell Evans Great Ocean Road Race and the Festival of Sails, which was combined to make one of the biggest weekends on the calendar in Geelong and provide an incredible boost to the local economy. We've had a huge Christmas program which went through last month, which cemented our reputation as the Christmas capital of Geelong, I thoroughly believe, and Australia, sorry. So early in January, we also saw Bay Crits along the waterfront, the Great Australian Beer Festival in Johnson Park, and more recently, the Victorian Country Athletics Championship at Landy Field, which was the weekend past as well. Next to the Barwon Regatta, there's a lot on all over our city. Because major events, they play a critical role in our local economy, in our tourism, in our local business. And on behalf of the Council, I want to congratulate everybody who was involved in creating these events, in funding these events, and attending them to make them what they are. So there's much to look forward to as well as already has happened behind us. So we're really getting off with a bang here. I'd also like to welcome our newest councillor, Melissa Cadwell, who's been in just over a week now in the job. Excellent, amazing, is doing fantastic already. Is joining us tonight in the chamber for the first time. Many of you will know Melissa, very active in the Geelong scene for a long time, and we certainly welcome her expertise to this council chamber. I would also like to take the opportunity to publicly acknowledge outgoing councillor Sarah Mansfield, and we certainly wish her well in her new role with the Victorian Legislative Council. Most of us have been working with Sarah since late 2017, and I'm sure we'll be continuing to work with her in a new capacity closely. So moving on tonight, councillors, I'll be asking for a strict adherence to the speaking time limits. In terms of apologies, I ask that Councillor Nelson be noted as an apology for tonight's meeting. Councillor Quintel is seeking a leave of absence to be granted from the 11th of March to the 19th of March, inclusive of this year. Can I please have a mover for that? Councillor Mason, seconded by Councillor Grisbeck. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Item carried. Are there any other leaves of absence to be noted this evening?
Mr Mayor, my apologies. I'll be seeking leave from the 18th of February to the 25th of February. Apologies for the lateness of that.
No worries at all, Councillor Harwood. 18th of Feb to the 25th of Feb inclusive. Can I please have a mover? Councillor Murray, seconded. Councillor Maloney. All those in favour? Thank you, it's carried. Right, are there any declarations of conflict of interest in relation to tonight's agenda? If conflicts arise during the meeting, please make them known. All right, can I please have a mover and a seconder for the confirmation of minutes from the council meeting held on the 13th of December 2022? Mover, Councillor Asher, seconded, Councillor Harwood. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Carried. Apologies, I'll speak a little bit closer to the microphone. Yep, okay. We'll turn this up, sir. Thank you. Absolutely. Just take a moment to turn that up. Right. Councillors, before the council meeting progresses further, I'm going to seek a mover and a seconder that standing orders be suspended for the City of Greater Geelong's state and federal elected parliamentary service recognition program. Can I please have a mover? Councillor Grisbeck, seconded. Councillor Harwood. All those in favour? That is carried. So the meeting is suspended at 6:12 p.m. Right. Now I'm doing this for a very specific purpose, and that is for the council wishes to acknowledge and celebrate the contribution that retiring MP Lisa Neville has made to the Bellarine region, Greater Geelong, and to the state of Victoria. Lisa retired from state politics at the last election after 20 years in Parliament, an extremely significant period of time to serve one's community. She was a trailblazer in a number of aspects and will leave a deep and impactful legacy for her time. She was both the first woman elected to represent the Bellarine electorate and has become its longest serving member. Lisa played a key role in cabinets under 3 different premiers and held major portfolios for a number of years. Lisa was the first Minister for Health for Mental Health in 2006 and took on the aged care and children portfolios in the same year. Other social policy ministries as well, being Community Services and Senior Victorians, followed in 2007. And she was appointed to the Water Ministry in 2014, a ministry she maintained until her retirement. In 2016, Lisa became Victoria's first female police minister, and she would become the longest serving police minister in Victoria, overseeing huge investments and expansion in police resourcing, equipment and capability. And between 2018 and 2021, Lisa was responsible for emergency services as well. This was another huge task, especially during the 2019-20 bushfires, when about half of Victoria was impacted by such fire. On a local level, Lisa has been influential in securing government funding for a range of major infrastructure projects. These include upgrades to Geelong Hospital, GMHBA Stadium, Geelong Arts Centre and the revitalisation of the CBD. In our electorate, we've seen the creation of the Drysdale Bypass, the duplication of Barwon Heads Road, Port Arlington Safe Harbour, and a range of investments in community, sporting and education facilities. The contribution that Lisa has to the Geelong and Victorian communities is immense, and we'll continue to reap the benefits of her service for many years to come. Congratulations to you, Lisa, and the City of Greater Geelong, the Geelong Council. Wish you all the best with your life, post-politics and future endeavours. Thank you. I'll now ask other councillors if they wish to say a few words. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. I certainly endorse everything you've said and I'll try not to repeat it. And certainly after 20 years, with the 20 years service, if we had introduced this acknowledgement 10 years ago, Lisa would be up for her second acknowledgement now. But we very much appreciate everything you've done, Lisa, and we understand that your driving force has always been community service and social equity. And I suppose that's been reinforced by your studies at Griffith Uni and your law degree at Deakin. And of course your early service is exemplified in Queensland and New South Wales and with the National Union of Students of Melbourne, and has always had a wide background in community service organisations and with the elderly and the disabled. So we're so lucky to have you with us. With all of that background, and then your background also at Springdale Centre, which became a springboard for your current 20-year tenure to serve the state and the Bellarine. And I won't mention all of those 8 ministries again, just Minister for everything. Thank you very much. And I won't mention all the different boards and so on either, but I will focus on your service as the local member for Bellarine. And I've actually checked around, Lisa, because my opinion's not enough. And it was really enervating to hear consistent views on your service, and they really resonated. Above all, I've really heard consistently and unprompted predominant statements such as, Lisa cares for community, Lisa listens, Lisa always makes the time, lovely Lisa, she always follows through, Lisa always places the community above politics. And I've heard a lot of other words too, such as tenacious, fearless, honest, upfront, high integrity. And it was really amazing to hear all the different people I've spoken to use these similar terms quite spontaneously. And over the past 5 years, I've attended many community functions and ceremonies where you've officiated, Lisa. And you've always demonstrated a grip of issues and depth of knowledge, speaking from the heart, knowing everybody. It's been quite a lesson in community engagement and the principles of community development. And from where you've had a lifetime of caring for community. And there isn't a community group, sporting club, school, parkland or wetland, welfare or wellbeing organisation which hasn't felt your support and influence. And Lisa's always ensured her office staff searched for grant opportunities and with the capacity building in mind and with a caring for community consciousness that would assist beneficiaries to make their own way with that community development background. And so, in caring for community, examples are too numerous, and the Mayor's also already mentioned some of them. But here's a broad brushstroke mentioned to me over recent days. Pedestrian crossings and art hub in Barwon Heads, the Drysdale Bypass, the Clifton Springs Fishing Jetty, the Adrian Mannix Awards, Bellarine Safety Committee, the Port Arlington Ferry Terminal and Recreation Reserve, Indented Head Hall, Boat Ramp and Boat Club, general CFA facilities, retention of police stations, the Ocean Grove Pool, patron of the Bellarine Show, the Bellarine Secondary College and Primary Schools, Destination Queenscliff, expansion of the Ramsar wetlands, stingray feeding, aged care and homelessness, CCTV and the skate park in St Leonards, and on it goes, we can't say them all. And on a personal note, before I was on council, I spent some years with Bellarine Landcare and with other community and volunteers, including 10 Bellarine police volunteers, on a project restoring the Manaram Memorial restoring the Manaram Memorial Hall site for a Memorial Indigenous Garden. Lisa, thank you. You made a point of coming to our inaugural Anzac Day ceremony, and we all know how difficult it is to attend all those different ceremonies on the Bellarine on Anzac Day. So thank you for that. But I've only spoken about caring for community, caring for country also. And we can't say too much about that, especially as in the Ministry for the Environment. But caring for country, thank you for the Dal. The Bellarine community is exceptionally pleased with your efforts there, Lisa. So what huge achievements. There's a lot more to do, so much done, but I suppose it's all in Alison's lap now. And I'm sure with your guidance, Lisa, Alison will go from strength to strength. Thank you for your wonderful service.
Good luck along with that, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Those words are certainly on par. They're fantastic. A great recollection. Councillor Asher, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I'll take the brave challenge of trying to follow Jim, but I won't actually try and compete. I think Jim has summed up beautifully, although it's probably even more extensive than what Jim's actually said there too. I just want to say that despite what may have appeared in newspapers at times, I've always found our relationship to be very respectful. You've always been very professional, always incredibly responsive, and obviously very popular with your community. So well done. If there's a stone left unturned by you on the Bellarine, I don't know what it is, but thank you very much for your service. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I hope people can hear us up the back there as well too. Look, so much has been said about Lisa, not just here tonight, but in Parliament and the community as well too, and the broader community in Geelong, and it really does reflect the impact that Lisa has made for the whole community of Geelong. And she's probably one of the few ministers that you would bump into in Geelong West in a pizza joint and get the opportunity to talk about issues. She's probably one of the few people that actually spent as much life in Parliament as what she did in a local community as well too, because sometimes Parliament takes over your local community representation as well too. But so much has been said, but what I wish to really talk about and reflect on is that if 2023 we live in a patriarchal world, just imagine what it was like in 2002 when Lisa first started. And I say that because I can actually remember when Lisa was actually the manager of Springdale Community Centre. The council, I was actually a young councillor, and we had a grant program, and in fact between 1992 and 1993 was actually the Kennett years in Geelong, and council actually had to fill a lot of community grants because the sector was actually decimated. And I actually always remember Lisa as a coordinator because she actually used to have so much joy from the privilege of actually getting council funding to help her community in those early 1990s. And in fact, the council didn't used to tell you were a recipient. We used to have a night where we announced it. And Lisa was, I actually can remember that Lisa had the same attitude whether they were receiving a grant or they weren't receiving a grant, and she was respectful of the community. And of course, Lisa was starting to grow in her participation in the community as a coordinator, and in fact the patriarchal work was in existence because Lisa wasn't known as Lisa Neville. Lisa was known as a partner of a very powerful man, and it was fascinating to once that shadow was taken away from Lisa to actually grow into the powerful woman that she actually became. And she is a leader and an example for many other women in Geelong who aspire to have leadership. And that is actually emphasised by the roles that Lisa had. She may have started in the community, but she finished as one of the most powerful women in Victoria. And in fact, Geelong hasn't had many powerful women like Lisa Neville. So we've had political women, but we have never had women that have received the responses that Lisa has. And one of the greatest things I can remember is the late Frank Costa used to say that you don't have to speak to the Premier when you know Lisa Neville. And that epitomised the significance of Lisa's role that she played in Geelong and also in the government at the state level as well too. She's created a legacy now as well too by passing on to Alison Marchant. And that's a very difficult thing to be able to do in politics, to be able to continue your philosophies and your culture and your beliefs about your community. And Lisa has been able to achieve that as well too. It shouldn't go without passing that 20 years is an extremely long time. It has taken a personal toll on Lisa. It is well known her medical condition that, and her age has actually tempered her ability to participate at the highest level. But I look forward to Lisa's next chapter in life, whatever that may be, and I hope it is serving the community in some manner. And I'm really pleased that this recognition program is an opportunity for us as the leaders of the community at the local government level to thank our politicians, but in particular to thank one who probably won't be surpassed in terms of the most powerful political female we've ever seen in Geelong. So thank you, Lisa. Yeah.
Any other councillors wish to make comment? I think it's, yeah, sure, I think it's all been said,
Comment.
absolutely.
I think anyone that spends 20 years in any position, particularly a leadership position in politics, needs to be applauded. So, Lisa, thank you very much for all that you've done. Personally, you and I haven't had a lot to do with each other over the years, but I do recall, and I'm sure you will, some of the discussions that we were having between 2010 and 2013, particularly with Joe Pavlovic at the time, as we were trying to establish an aged care facility in Bell Park, Bellpost Hill, which was being supported heavily by the Croatian community. And you know, it was terrific that during that election process, with the value opposition that both the Labor and the Liberal Party did show bipartisan support for that facility. I'm sure that you feel extremely proud that that facility is now established. And whilst it's on a sad note, it's also on a positive note that my mum was actually admitted into that facility just last week, full time. I was at the facility just yesterday myself. But what is great about that, Lisa, is that in the heart of Bell Park, that migrant community now has an aged care facility, and you'll be very thrilled to know that it's almost at capacity. And whilst we're sad to have mum in there, we're very happy that she's in a great place. So thank you for that. There's a real tangible outcome for the leadership that you showed during your career. So thank you.
Sorry guys, can't get my microphone on. With that, Lisa, these words, you cannot summarise a 20-year career in just an hour, in a 2 or 3. What you have done throughout that time frame is beyond what we can all put forward tonight, but on behalf of ourselves, the entire organisation and the residents of Greater Geelong, we would like to thank you for your service, and we believe we have a small gift here as well, if you'd like to come up and receive it, please. Deputy American.
Yep. Well, that's all been a bit overwhelming tonight. I'll come back to that in a moment. Can I just begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land we meet on and pay my respects to elders past and present, to all, the Mayor and all the councillors that are here, also to my well, I can't really call you colleagues, but past and, you know, friends, the federal and state MPs that are with me. And I've got some great friends that are here today who... it's hard to pick. Well, my son's in Phuket, so he didn't want to come back from there for it. So I've got some friends that have been part of the 20 years, some more than that, my age longer than that. Colette and John longer than that. They've heard I've got my staff here, former colleague, as well as staff member Ian Trezise and Kylie Rawson, who I'm sure many of you will have dealt with over the period when we were trying to fix issues. But it's great to have them here with me tonight, in lieu of my son, who's happy enough to. Somebody said, "Is he live streaming it?" I said, "Are you serious? Like, really?" I know he loves me, and I'm supposedly partly retired in order to spend more time with him, and he disappears. But to my friends that are here tonight, they listen to all my whinges, including about council, about state government, about federal government. They listen to all the whinges, the ups and downs of the journey. I really am touched by the comments tonight, and what's funny about it for me is that it sounds really impressive, and I feel, oh, gee, I did a lot. But at the same time, right now, I'm still struggling to work out my technology. I've been kicked off Facebook for some reason. I can't get back on. So I was only on it for a month. So like I sort of feel at one level I've achieved here, but as I become the feather duster here in my new life, all these other parts of my life are falling apart. So I can't quite gel the two together. But over the 20 years, there's been, as we've talked about, there's been a lot of change in Geelong. Well, in fact, really, when I first started my connection with Geelong, I was working at the Financial Counselling Service back in 1990, and Pyramid collapsed not long after that. And to see where Geelong has come now and to feel a part of its development in the last 20 years makes me very proud, but also privileged to have had that opportunity. And none of these things you do on your own. It really has been a partnership, whether it's a partnership with council, whether it's a partnership with the federal government. We've developed and committed to a whole lot of changes, both in our culture and how we feel about ourselves, as much as in the buildings and the facilities that we've built along the way. And most importantly, I think it is that change about how we see ourselves as a community that I feel the proudest about. And I've worked with a lot of CEOs and a lot of councillors. I think Bruce and Anthony are probably the longest that I've spent time working with, nearly the 20 years. There's a bit of a gap there, when we sacked you, that sort of thing. But aside from that, we've probably spent the 20 years working together, some newer faces. And we've had robust conversations. We absolutely have. But I hope it has been respectful, as Steph has mentioned, because I know that we've all been in this game in order to make things better for our communities and fight for our communities. So when I look around the state, in the areas that I had a chance to have my involvement, when I look at our region, our city here in Geelong and the Bellarine, we are a much better place now because of not just my work but the efforts of everyone here, our MPs that are here, those that have come before us, and I think we can be extremely proud of what we've been able to achieve together. So I really thank you for this acknowledgement tonight. It has been very moving for me, and it feels like another part of finishing what I started, and a good way to do that. It's like I was able to leave on my own terms and pass the baton to Alison, and making sure we've got another woman in Bellarine and who's going to carry the baton, and I know very well she will carry that very well. But it has been a great way to finish off this term. And just so you know, I'm not going anywhere, and I'm sure you'll see me around Geelong causing trouble occasionally, but again, always in the interests of the community. So for everything I put in, all I can say is that I got so much more out of it from the community. I learnt so much, and most importantly, I was part of people's lives and hopefully made a difference in their lives. So thanks very much.
Hear, hear.
Surely you want to save a question time?
Not at all, not at all. Lisa, thank you once more. Thank you everybody for attending. Enjoy your evening. Take care. I now ask for a mover and seconder for standing orders to be resumed. Can I please have a mover? Councillor Grisbeck, seconded. Councillor Asher, standing orders were resumed. Oh, sorry, all those in favour first. Thank you. All those against? Carried. Meeting resumed at 6:35 p.m. The next agenda item is public question and submission time. It is specifically available for questions and submissions rather than a forum for discussion. In accordance with our policy, we set aside 45 minutes for question time, providing for each person to address the council for 3 minutes per question or submission, with no more than 2 questions asked or submissions made per person. Questions and submissions provided in writing prior to the meeting will be considered first. After this, if time permits, members of the gallery will be given the opportunity to ask a question or make a submission. However, if it is in relation to an agenda item, councillors won't be able to provide you with much of an answer as they will be discussing it and voting on it, but you'll be able to hear us consider the item very shortly. I note that there are some questions relating to an agenda item tonight, which are directed at councillors, being item 2.4, Tree Cities of the World. As this item is being considered tonight, councillors will be unable to answer some questions during the public question time, as if they put forth a position on the item before it comes before us, they'll be excluded from actually voting on it. For those who have pre-submitted questions but are not present tonight, responses to your questions have been published on Council's website and will also be emailed to you. It's also important to note that each councillor has read the questions sent in. Now, for tonight's meeting, we have received pre-submitted questions from 5 community members, and those individuals and the topics of interest are from Terry Fahey in regards to dog control orders and governance matters. We have from Wilma Cameron in regards to Tree Cities of the World, Jennifer Banto, Tree Cities of the World, Lewis DeCoca for Tree Canopy within City of Greater Geelong, and John Nell DeCoca, I imagine, in replanting of tree Belba Road in Highton. Now, I will go through and ask those people in the order I've read out to come up and address the council first, and then we'll move on to if we have time for other people who may wish to ask a question or address the council as well. So, from number 1, is Terry here this evening? Terry Fahey? If not, Terry's answers will be online and sent to him as well. Do we have Wilma Cameron with us this evening? Wilma's not here? Likewise, her answer to her question will be published online and sent to her. Jennifer, I do believe I saw you in the audience. Please. I seem a bit redundant, Jennifer, but I'll just ask you to state your name and then the time is yours.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, Councillor Sullivan. Sorry, Jennifer Banto. Is that all I have to say?
That's all, thank you.
Yeah, righto, thank you. Good evening, everybody, and I wish you all well in 2023 with all your such significant issues that you deal with. So I wish you all well. My question relates to agenda item, my 3 questions to the same item, Tree Cities of the World. A program to recognise cities around the globe that have committed to growing and maintaining their urban forest. I think this is a great proposal and I hope the application will succeed because I think it'll be contributing to the growing momentum of recognition of the importance of our trees. And I hope if this application is successful that no more trees will be removed from Cardinia Park. When the new grandstand was under construction, 12 perfectly healthy mature trees, heritage trees, were removed, so I hope that won't happen anymore. I hope there'll be fewer planning approvals allowing tree removal. On the agenda tonight there are 2 in Drysdale. Permits been issued for removal of native vegetation, and in Ocean Grove, a permit's been issued for removal of 11 pine trees within a heritage overlay, so I hope there'll be less of that if we get this recognition. Also, that rows of trees providing bird habitat and carbon absorption in residential areas on public land along roads will not be removed, such as the many trees that were removed along the railway line in Carr Street, South Geelong recently. According to the Arbor Day Foundation, which this application's going to, according to their website, in 1 year a mature tree will absorb more than 48 pounds of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And it also, that same website also talks about the most efficient carbon absorbing trees, and lists an East Palaka holly, a slash pine, live oak, southern magnolia and bald cypress. Palms are the least effective. So perhaps we should rethink our central city palm trees. Get rid of those and get some better ones. So I am getting to the question. So the first question is, if this application succeeds, the recommendation succeeds tonight, will the city's Heritage Strategy Action Plan proposing developing and implementing a significant heritage tree register be part of the application? That's the first question. Does that mean I've run out of time?
For the first question, but I believe if you wanted to state all your questions, we can have them
Will I
answered.
read the three all together?
Yeah, just read them straight together, that'll be
okay.
fine. Thank you.
So that's the first one. I hope that that Heritage Action Plan is, Heritage Strategy Action Plan is implemented and we get a heritage tree register. The second question is, also in association with this application, will Council provide resources to review, correct, update and add protective measures to the Geelong Tree database? It's a great resource. It was done quite a while ago, and recently there was an application to save a tree in Newtown and the entry on that database was incorrect. So it does need review. The species was incorrect. It's an Algerian oak, not an English oak. It's just one of the details that needs reviewing. And also okay, that's question 2, sorry. So question 3, also associated with the same agenda item. We have some measures, environmental significance overlay and significant landscape overlay, and there's 15 of significant landscapes in the planning scheme that have special clauses, one being the northern bank of the Barwon River in the Newtown area, and there's been 3 planning permit applications recently to remove vegetation along that north bank of the river. So they're still underway, so I hope those trees are not cut down. So the final question is, what is the best way for the public to protect a tree? There's not a clear avenue of how to go about this. I haven't found a clear avenue. It's sort of fragmented across various policies. So what's the best way the public can protect a tree or a group of trees on public or private land or land managed by another agency such as VicTrack Public Transport, Rangamite Catchment Management Authority and the Barwon Water Authority all have authority or jurisdiction over landscape areas and avenues of trees? And can protection for a single tree or a group of trees be achieved by applying an environmental significance overlay or a significant landscape overlay, which seem to be over a big area rather than individual or groups of trees? Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I must say, if someone as dedicated as you hasn't found a clear-cut way to protect the trees, then I am intrigued by this answer to get to the bottom of it. I now ask David Greers from the City Services to come up and help us with an answer. Thank you, David.
Questions, Jennifer. In relation to question 1, the City recognises the value of significant tree register. A funding request was put forward in the 22-23 budget, but this was not successful. The development and launch of a significant tree register project relies on additional funding, and we will continue to monitor external funding opportunities in relation to that. In response to question 2, officers update the register as part of their day-to-day job whenever an idiosyncrasy or error is found. Where they're identified, they are rectified. Trees on public land are protected by Council's neighbourhood amenity law in the local laws, and the City is investigating options for improving the protection of trees, and this will be subject of a Council report later this year. In relation to question 3, there are a number of overlays that can protect trees by requiring a planning permit to evaluate the justification for removal. A technical study by an arborist, ecologist or landscape architect is required to justify the application of new overlays. Council is currently investigating the planning and other regulatory tools that can be used to protect trees in an urban environment. And again, a report will be presented to Council later this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Right, is Lewis here? How are you, Lewis?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening.
Just you state your name and then your time is yours.
Louis de Coker,
Louis.
Mayor, councillors, and in particular, Councillor Cadwell, congratulations. Starting with some hard facts. We all know Australia, unfortunately, has one of the highest cancer rates in the world. 2 out of 3 Australians will be diagnosed with skin cancer by the age of 70. According to the Cancer Council and research, we are all affected by it. Our loved ones are affected by it, directly or indirectly. The Council urges its residents to walk rather than drive and actively supports, including through the planning scheme, development that compels residents to walk, cycle and use public transport rather than private vehicles. And this is good. Banyule Council recognised its ethical and moral and probably also legal responsibility to have 45% of all of its footpaths in each suburb covered by tree canopy by 2040, a hard target. And they started by focusing on areas around schools that we want our kids to use, areas around public transport, to support use of public transport, and around our shopping centres, the intensive use areas, to encourage people to walk safely, especially during the hot summer months. So my question was to the Council and the councillors present, whether the Council has a similar footpath, canopy tree shade coverage strategy and hard target. And I ask that kind of knowing that I have certainly not had sight of one. So the key part is the next part of the question. Is there commitment to work with the community and with relevant organisations, including the Cancer Council, to use public trees and boundary trees on private land to provide a healthy measure of footpath canopy shade for Geelong's residents, to work towards hard targets with an active funded plan to protect especially our youngest and most vulnerable residents? And that is my question. Thank you, Mayor.
Question, Louis. Appreciate it. I'll ask now David for a response again, to give us some information.
Your question, Louis. Council does not have a specific footpath shade strategy in relation to canopy trees. However, the urban forest strategy used heat mapping of the municipality to identify vulnerable communities in relation to suburbs, existing canopy cover and useful life expectancy of the tree population to prioritise tree planting programs as part of that strategy. But we know we do not have a footpath shade strategy in place.
And any targets, if I may?
So under the urban forest strategy, we have KPIs which are reported via the Geelong Data Exchange. But from a footpath shade strategy, no targets.
No targets, footpath shade strategy. I think that is the important part for the councillors tonight. Thank you so much.
Well noted. Thank you, Louis. Right, Jean? Hi, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, councillors. My name is Jean Nel de Koker. First of all, congratulations, Councillor Cadwell, on your election. Then, if I can, I'd also like to comment on the application to be recognised as a tree city. I noted the Council's intention to apply for recognition as a 2022 World Tree City because it's an annual application. In particular, as the Australian cities recognised during 2021, acknowledge and place a particular significance on maintaining, protecting and retaining existing trees on public as well as private land to mitigate the impact of declining tree cover on the livability, the prosperity and the long-term resilience of their residents. And they have dedicated programs to support that approach. I'm hoping that rubbing shoulders with those councils will influence the city of Greater Geelong, who in contrast, unfortunately, has no hard targets in place in this respect and seem to be moving in the opposite direction. But my question specifically tonight, the City of Geelong removed a mature gum tree with extensive canopy cover in front of 54 Barrable Street or Barrable Road in Highton, and that location is one of the highest developments in Highton in terms of height. Although clauses 441 and 54 of the current City of Geelong tree management policy, as well as its predecessor, prescribe the replanting of new trees subject to site suitability in the same location in future planting seasons if an individual street or park tree is removed or fatally damaged. A number of planting seasons have passed without that tree being replaced. During the council meeting last year, 26 October, well, actually, 26 October 2021, so even earlier, responding to a question about the removal of the tree, a city services representative stated, and I quote, "A replacement tree is scheduled to be replanted in the 2022 planting season." The council also indicated during the March 2022 meeting, and again I'm quoting, "Replanting only occurs during April to September to ensure the best survival rates for the street trees. However, to date, and we are now in January 2023, there's still no replacement public tree in front of 54 Barrable Street. The area remains bare and shadowless. My question, why has no action followed from the commitment given at the October 2021 meeting? Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. David, please.
Thank you, Jean, for your question. Constraints when we looked at replanting that tree were identified on the site that meant further investigation was needed before planting could be undertaken. The team is currently working towards planting at this site during the next available planting season.
Right. Now, those are all the questions which are pre-submitted. We certainly do have some remaining time. I will now allow some additional, what I'm noting, allow an extra time, we have it there. So on to people who may have not had time to pre-submit their questions. Do I have anybody else in the chamber right now who would like to ask a question or make a submission of council? And if you do, I'll just ask for a show of hands. I see two hands, and I'll ask the gentleman on my left to come first forward, please. Sir, yes. Just have your name, sir. The time is yours.
Yes, so name Adam O'Donnell. Thank you for your time. My question is for both Jim and Steph. Nice to see you again. Last I saw you was 19th of December in relation to Barons Lane, Drysdale, and funding for rectification works for flooding that has occurred and unfortunately continues to occur. So my question in short is there an update on the funding?
Appreciate that. I might defer to our CEO first, the current situation we've had with chasing, because various conversations have been had post that meeting and the minutes were spread and the various MPs were with that. We have discussed it.
Sabrina, my apologies for not recognising you as well. Sorry.
Hey, and it's lovely to see you this evening. Certainly there is, as Trent has indicated, been multiple discussions with a number of departments internally. The council is going through our 23-24 budgeting process at the moment. We anticipate to bring the list of priorities that have been identified through the work by officers, but also conversations with councillors across the whole municipality to a series of workshops with councillors so they can look at all of those priorities and look at the funding that we have available and make some decisions. So whilst I don't have a decision for you this evening that we can talk about, certainly that process is underway and there is work underway to include rectification through flooding for a number of different areas across the city as being a priority for councillors.
Jim?
I think it's been fairly well covered, but we have taken that on board. We haven't had any formal meetings on budget yet, but we have raised the issue and it will remain alive until we come to a conclusion on it.
Is there an indicative date for the conclusion?
Sorry, I can help. Budgeting, we will get to the end of budgeting around April, but the series of workshops are happening end of February into March with the councillor group. So we should be able to have some outcomes around April, but our budget is adopted June, and so that will be the formal publish of the document. There's a long process, obviously, with multiple submissions from community members and discussions with councillors that precede finalisation of what gets funded. And as we are aware, it's not a small amount of money, unfortunately, for the rectification that we're looking at, not only for Barons Lane, but for Gertrude Street and some other areas across the municipality who are, unfortunately, and some in Lara, that are experiencing, not great circumstances as a result of some of the weather we've been having with flash flooding. So,
horrendous circumstances indeed.
Final question, and just excuse my ignorance on this, but as a simple question, how do I find out if it gets a yes or a no?
I can certainly take that commitment to come back to you, and I'm sure the ward councillors who've been on site to meet with you and your family will be in touch with you as well. But happy to take that.
Thank you.
Nice. Thanks, sir. Second gentleman with his hand raised, would you still like to come up? Thank you. Just get your name, sir, and then your time is yours.
Graham O'Donnell, and I'm the, the brother of Barbara Austin, who's at 142 Barons Lane. I thank you, councillors, by the way, for asking us to come in tonight. So my question is, in terms of, my understanding was that there was major works that actually had been delayed because of design, and that those funds may be able to be redirected to Barons Lane. Is that still a possibility?
I've got an answer for you off the top of my head there, Graham.
So I'm sorry if there's been a misunderstanding, but that's not my current understanding on that topic, that the situation that we're working through is that there's no funds currently allocated to remediate the drainage issues in Barons Lane, and we would be looking at that for funding through this budget process with councillors, along with, as I mentioned, a number of other flood mediation measures that are really important, obviously, across the community.
So just a follow-up question, and in terms of, I gather it's been discussed with the whole of the councils. My son put in, that's my son, by the way, put in comprehensive minutes, I think, of the meeting that took place. Has that been circulated amongst all of the councillors, and they're aware of the situation that we had another flood at Christmas? This time, luckily, it didn't affect my sister's house, but the next door neighbour got flooded out, and it's a really distressing situation for these people in terms of what they're going through.
We understand, sir. Minutes have been circulated. I've been through them myself. Unfortunately, we have seen a few areas of the city go under the same sort of very similar flooding measures, and it is horrible for all residents undertaking this. So flood mitigation measures will certainly be a high priority advocated for by many councils across the wards for the budget process coming forwards.
A bit of a statement. I appreciate that you actually are doing this, but it was stunning to me that given that there was flooding, that ladies pushed out of her house just before Christmas, not my sister, the next door neighbour, people at the back who know the stressing situation they're in, not one person turned up from council. And my life has been engineering, and I'm sitting there saying, that's not good enough. Someone should have come out and made an appearance. And I would like to think that that does occur in the future if there is another issue that occurs, and that we actually do get regular updates on what is happening. And of course I'm talking on behalf of my sister and her husband, because I fear that it's going to affect their health to the point where they will collapse. So could we in fact get that done?
I appreciate this, sir. Whilst a lot of work goes on behind the scenes, boots on the ground and the visible presence being there, checking on people is certainly important. We'll definitely take that on board.
And certainly we've identified that as being an area where we need to improve, and we've had councillor feedback to that on that aspect for other areas across the municipality. Certainly we have relief and recovery. It is focused towards major whole of municipality events, and so we're now looking at an action plan for how we deal with isolated areas, particularly given the learnings with flash flooding. So partnering with the agencies like SES and VicPol, if they're involved, to make sure that we have a visible presence. Certainly behind the scenes, we do undertake measures like phone calls to make sure that we're providing outreach services through, I think it's Australian Churches Association is the one that we have a partnership with, but certainly it's a high priority discussion at the moment for officers and many councillors, given a number of community members who we really feel for, who are being disproportionately affected by flash flooding. So we do acknowledge it as a big issue.
It's something we've taken and are taking with our state and federal counterparts as well.
Right. Well, thank you, and I hope we get an update as we progress forward.
Thank you, Graham. Any other members in the chamber this evening who would like? Sir? Yes, please, come forward. Grab your name, sir, and your time is yours.
Good evening, Gary Ranyuk.
I'm sorry, pardon, what was that?
Gary Ranyuk, Geelong West. Earlier today I sent you people a notice regarding goings on in the mall. I don't know if you've all read it. Is that Melissa? Oh, congratulations. You got parachuted in, good on you. Now, look, the questions I asked in that notice were regarding violent and antisocial acts that have occurred for years and years and years in the mall. Right? Now, I mentioned that at one stage several years ago, council had security guys, I think there were 3 men all day, every day, in the mall, keeping a lid on events. And at some stage, some months ago, I wrote to council, to the bulk of you, about things going on in the mall, and suggested that you liaise with Victoria Police and Station Commander, who I spoke to a while ago at the community forum the police conducted at Caninia Park. Now, there have been some quite violent events in the mall recently, and the Advertiser online posted an article about a man who was stabbed down around Westfield yesterday, I think it was. That story will appear in the paper. Now, given that council previously had security people in the mall, obviously because it's a well-known hotspot, I've suggested that you people immediately reinstate the security guys in the mall and negotiate with police and state government about who's going to foot the cost and how that mall hotspot is going to be monitored. Because at the police forum, Station Commander Peter Nichols approached me at the break, and we had a bit of a chat about it, and I said that it's been an ongoing problem for years and years and years, and I think council have been a bit remiss in their duty, because outgoing CEO Kelvin Spiller in his last opinion piece in the Advertiser said that council's budget at that stage was some $460 million. Now, given that, the question is, are you going to put these people in, reinstate security, or get the police to patrol regularly throughout the day? No, they don't have to be there every day, but the security people in Market Square tell me morning, 9 o'clock, midday and evening times, end of business, 5 p.m, are good times to have people there. And at the forum I suggested that even that could be at random times, so that the police, the culprits in the mall, don't really know when they're going to turn up. Because council set the precedent with security people, and I think it needs to happen again, because there's been violent incidents quite recently, and too many of them. One's too many. And I would say that because council collect rates off people in this town, and a lot of them go through the mall, there's a liability factor there. And with the young lady in the shop in the mall, she's been living in trepidation of even leaving the place in the evening, because she'd been abused and spat on several times in one incident that I mentioned. And I think really you should be considering reinstating those security people and negotiating with the police.
Yes, certainly.
All of you are liable, state, federal and state police and council, and there's no reason for people who've been assaulted in the mall not to make claims against all three entities.
No, I appreciate your statement, Gary. Really do.
Just look, that's the question. That's the statement and the question, but I didn't put a reply date in that notice, but I think 7 days or so is good enough, and maybe a public statement about reinstating the security people, because there was some years ago a plan to put PSOs in the mall, but that did not eventuate.
I'm afraid we can't control the PSO, sir, but I think you are correct that at one stage there were security guards put in there. Now, we all know there's unfortunately a series of antisocial behaviour is attracted to the mall. The council has invested heavily in activation. Street activation of levels is proven to be the #1 deterrent actually to antisocial behaviour. So you'll see the investment in the greening of the area, the activation of the equipment people use, having performers and drawing people to the region there. We do work closely with the Victorian State Government and the police force there, and having regular contact into antisocial behaviour that takes place there, not only for people who are undertaking such behaviour, but trying to address the issue of homelessness, and those people help, and in other places as well. The issue of security guards is one that hasn't been on the table for a while, so thank you for bringing it to our attention. I'm sure you'll get a reply within 7 days, but since you've now come to a council meeting, you are by law required to be given a response within 14 days as well. So please be sure that we'll be back to you on this topic.
That's all well and good, but the problem exists now. It existed yesterday.
I understand, sir,
someone
but
got stabbed.
I can't allocate funding for security guards at this meeting right now.
You have, you people have got all sorts of programs going on about LGBTI and all the other things I mentioned in the thing.
All important issues.
Yeah, well, they're not as important as keeping people safe.
Some of these programs do keep people
Yeah,
safe.
the question's been asked and answered.
It has been asked and
Time to
answered.
move on.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir, for your time this evening.
Well, Bruce, you're a former policeman. You should know what it's all about.
So your point has been well noted.
Yeah, okay, good,
response.
thanks.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Do you have any other questions from the gallery this evening? If not, I will move on with the agenda. And once again, so that concludes question time, and I want to thank you to all submitters of questions this evening, to councillors here and officers. Into petitions and joint letters, we've received 2 petitions from members of the public, for which each of the petitioners has nominated a ward councillor to table on their behalf. Councillor Maloney has one on behalf of Lifestyle Homeowners Committee. Councillor Nelson has one on behalf of John Simandi. Unfortunately, Councillor Nelson is an apology this evening, so Councillor Maloney will be tabling that as well. Councillor Maloney.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, and thank you, Gary, for your submission. I recently was trying to break up a fight that occurred right in front of me in the mall, and I was told to not intervene, and PSO officers came very slowly to the aid of that incident, which was very alarming. So thank you for raising that to our attention. I'd like to table tonight the petition on behalf of John Simandi, which is an objection to the proposed development of the 6 Greenway Court, Wandana Heights development. This is something that's coming before the Planning Committee. This has received 246 approximately signatures. With regard to the petition, it states that it is an overdevelopment of the site. This will be discussed at a later planning committee, if we can grab a quorum at some point. I would also like to table, on behalf of the Lifestyle Homeowners Committee, a petition to encourage the council to invoke traffic calming measures along Boundary Road and at Mount Dunedin, in between 2 roads, which is detailed in here. The homeowners and lifestyle community have witnessed a number of high-speed chases and people deciding that they want to test out their engines, which has created a real danger to the community, and they're wanting to install wombat speed humps or similar traffic calming measures to make sure that people can cross the road safely. There is a large population of retired and elderly individuals, which, as you can understand, might take a little bit longer to skip across the road, and these individuals who are potentially invoking hoon behaviour might be not so happy with their differential being left on the ground after launching over a wombat crossing. So hopefully this petition will draw that to the attention of council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Those 2 petitions table, that brings us to the end of that section and into section 2, reports. Now, the number 1 item on the agenda is Brownville Ward Councillor Melissa Cadwell, affirmation of office. Moved by Councillor Contell, seconded by Councillor Murray. Councillor Contell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and I also like to acknowledge that there's a former Mr Mayor in the room, so welcome previous Mayor John Mitchell. Good to see you again. Tonight we have the pleasure of noting the affirmation for Councillor Melissa Cadwell, who has now joined us in the chamber and also joined the Geelong team as an elected councillor. As we know, there was an extraordinary vacancy which occurred as a result of Councillor Sarah Mansfield being appointed to Parliament, and as a result of the countback, Councillor Melissa Cadwell is now with us. I think we'll all agree that to serve in any public office is an honour, and I'm sure that Councillor Melissa Cadwell will also appreciate that and already does. It's a pleasure to have you here. It was terrific to see you already engaging very early on last week, and I think we attended 2 or 3 functions collectively on the weekend, so it was fantastic to see you hit the ground running. You certainly have the support of Councillor Murray and I as your fellow councillors in the Brownville Ward, and I'm sure that you will have strong support by all the councillors. It's a pleasure to have you here, and welcome.
Councillor Contell. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Contell. I support those words, and also a big welcome to you, Melissa, to the chamber. On a personal note, I think we've run against each other in council elections twice, but it's also always been a pleasure catching up for a chat and a coffee, during that time and since. And I know you've got very strong thoughts and you're very passionate, and will be fierce in what you say about your area, if I can say that, but of course representation of Bramble and the Greater Geelong region. So I really do hope you've enjoyed the experience, and it's an enjoyable one for you. So we're thrilled to have you on board. And yeah, I was also going to mention, I think you got a heavyweight in supporting you in the chamber and in the ex-mayor, which is great to see. So again, welcome aboard and enjoy.
Councillor Murray. Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to welcome our newest councillor on board, and I think like all of the women councillors in the chamber today, and even Sarah Mansfield, we're products of the WILD group, the Women in Local Democracy, and it's really pleasing that have joined us, Melissa, and we look forward to many robust conversations that would happen across the chamber. So enjoy, and I'm sure I'm joining my fellow colleagues in saying that it can be quite daunting coming into a halfway through an election period. So please reach out to us if there's anything that you might need to understand a little better and when making your decisions. But good luck, and we're here to help you if you need. So thank you.
Councillor Grisbeck. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Look, I'll add to the length of time before Councillor Cadwell can actually speak herself, because she quickly learned that councillors like speaking. But look, I really do welcome your appointment. You've actually been a really, the energy that you've given in the last week has actually been fantastic for the council group. And in fact, I'm publicly happy to say that Councillor Cadwell's already attended more citizenships than the predecessor that she replaced. So I'm really pleased that Councillor Cadwell has got a strong community background and engagement, and certainly has started with an energy level that has been infectious for all of us as well too. So good luck, Melissa. And congratulations on your victory. And I think the real people that are actually going to be the success is not Melissa, it's actually the people in the Brownbill ward that Melissa is now going to represent. We've had great diversity from the existing Brownbill councillors, but it is fantastic to have one that actually truly comes from and represents the eastern part of Geelong. So that community has now got a direct seat at the table, and they're the real winners about the Count Back and Councillor Cadwell's position that she has been successful with. So well done.
Councillor Asher.
I'll just keep it very brief and formally welcome you and congratulate you on the win, and offer you all the very best. And as Councillor Grisbeck said, we are here to help if you need it. Welcome.
Councillor Maloney.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. Welcome. I remember watching the Pulse FM, the debate online, and I couldn't believe that you absolutely wiped the floor with everyone else's answers, and I thought, this girl's an absolute gun. I was a bit disappointed that you didn't get in, and I'm super glad to see you here. And thank you for allowing me to not be the newest councillor on the place, so welcome. And also, thanks for allowing me to be the only redhead councillor. I've gotten used to getting mistaken for Sarah Mansfield at different events, but I do acknowledge her massive contribution over the 5 years, and I'm sure you'll be able to fill her big shoes, and really well done. Welcome.
Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. Councillor Cadwell, I too welcome you, and am so pleased that you had the staying power. I do understand when the election a few years ago now, you were so disappointed because it was so close and you'd tried so hard. But if you hadn't have tried so hard, you wouldn't be here now. And I'm glad that those energy levels are still there, as has just been mentioned. So welcome.
Thank you.
And with that, I'll now give you the opportunity to reply to your adoring fans, Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you very much. Like etiquette, you need to just bring it a little closer to you. Yeah.
So let me know if you can't hear me very well. I'll speak up if I need to. Mr Mayor and fellow councillors, and particularly thank you Councillor Ketelj and Marahi for your warm welcome and for all of the words spoken today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for this opportunity to say a few words on my election to the City of Greater Geelong Council. It is very much appreciated. It's a great honour for me to be here in this place, in Geelong City Hall, at my first council meeting as an elected councillor. Having grown up and been educated in Geelong, worked locally, bought a house here, and now being elected to council, well, there's nothing like representing the people from where you're from. And on that note, I also want to acknowledge the former Geelong Mayor, John Mitchell, who I can see sitting in the audience today. I also want to thank the residents of the Brownbill ward, from Bellpost Hill in the north, right down to St Albans Park in the east, for electing me as one of their councillors for the next 2 years. I really appreciate the kind words and the messages I've received from local residents out my way in the east over the last week. These residents are very happy to finally have one of their own to talk with about their community and their needs. And let me say to the residents of Brownbill ward, and indeed everyone who lives in the City of Greater Geelong, that I will do my very best to represent you for the rest of this council term. And I do want to let you know that I've already hit the ground running. In my first week, I've met with several residents and taken their issues up, represented council at events, and asked council officers to follow up on several matters. Secondly, I want to recognise and thank the Mayor, Trent, thank you, and my fellow councillors and all of the council staff. You've all been a massive help to me personally over the last week as I've transitioned from a private citizen to a publicly elected representative. I also want to take the opportunity to thank my family and friends for their help and support over several election campaigns and their kind and generous words over the last week. I particularly want to recognise my mother, who is in the public gallery tonight, for giving me the choices that she didn't have and helping me to be here today. Sorry, I knew I was going to get upset. That's terrible of me. Please forgive me. I've been inspired by many people in my journey to this place. Many, and indeed most of them, are women. To give an example, the first female Victorian Premier, Joan Kirner, said, "Just by making a decision to stay out of politics, you are making the decision to allow others to shape politics and to exert power over you. And if you are alienated from the current political system, then just by staying out of it, you do nothing to change it. You simply entrench it." Well, I decided not to stay out of politics, and here I am. Although when I read that quote now from Joan, I did not realise that one day I would be standing where I am today. I'll have to get better at giving speeches in public, won't I? Uncharacteristically, I will finish with a quote from a former male politician. And this may be the first and last time that I quote him, former Prime Minister Paul Keating, who said, "The reward in public life is public progress. Have you made the place better?" Well, I intend to leave the City of Greater Geelong a better place. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Very well said, Councillor Cadwell. And of course it means a lot to have your mother here with us. But never be afraid of your emotions. They make the words that much more impactful. Well done. Councillor Contell to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think that was really well spoken and articulated, Councillor Cadwell, and I think the fact that you showed emotion is really refreshing. It shows that you care and that this is important to you. You'll often see some of us crying, will be for different reasons, probably not getting what we want. But I think it was really appropriate that you did show that emotion, because it is how we feel when we are elected to these types of positions. I often say to my daughters, and it's not my quote, I'm not intending it to suggest that you're here by luck by any means, because you're here because you're elected. But I say to my daughters, 80% of success is turning up, and you turned up, and as Jim said, you stayed and you turned up several times, and that's what it's about. It's continuing to have a go, so well done and welcome. Look forward to working with you.
Yeah. All right. So all in favour of noting the affirmation of Councillor Melissa Cadwell as per attachment 1, in favour? All those against? You can vote in favour of yourself. It's okay. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Well done. Excellent. And of course, I would like to acknowledge former Mayor Mitchell in the audience here as well. Sorry for before, John, the longest continuous serving mayor for the city of Greater Geelong.
And Melissa's mum as well too.
Yes, absolutely.
Right behind the form.
It's very, very important to share with family. Item 2 on the agenda. T230054, Design and Construct, Lara Recreation Reserve, AFL and Baseball Pavilion Tender. Moved by Councillor Grisbeck, seconded by Councillor Aiken. Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm a bit of a crowd crier, so excuse me if I get a bit emotional sitting right next to you. I am pleased to be here to move this item. It's the design and construction of the Lara Recreation Reserve Baseball Football Pavilion. I think this is stage 3, if I'm right, stage 3 of the Lara Rec Reserve Master Plan. This is a new sporting pavilion which will be the home of baseball, cricket and football. And for those of you that know the baseball pitch in Lara know that this new facility will be like Christmas all over again. Running water is a good thing. Toilets and change rooms are high on the agenda. The tender evaluation panel has recommended MKM Building Group be awarded the tender to design and construct the multi-use pavilion, which includes the gender-neutral change rooms, as I said, and such a modern facility, accessible facility. The price of this tender is $2,285,000, excluding GST, and this comes with the support of the state government is very welcomed here. This a $1 million announcement was made last year by Ella George, who is now the Lara MP, and would like to thank Ella for her support. Anthony and I would and also look forward to the continued relationship with Ella George in that space. Not much more to say, Mr. Mayor, so I'll leave it to other councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Look, Councillor Grisbeck has actually summed it up very well, so thank you, Kylie. I just wish to focus on the fact that baseball has actually been a poor cousin out at this site facility for far too long. In fact, Aussie Rules has dominated out at that site location, and cricket as well too. And what this pavilion will take, the baseball actually exists in a building that can only be described as like a shed in someone's backyard. And the baseball community out there is so excited because it also, another phase of this project is to change the diamond so that you'll no longer be facing the picture with the sun in your face. And that's another stage what would come before council very shortly as well to actually do the diamond works associated with it. So this is a really good project to show how the council is committed to diversity of activity in our local community, and it really is going to become the home of baseball in the northern suburbs. The bonus is that the Lara Sporting Precinct is built on the principle of actually multi-usage and engagement. So there's actually about 5 or 6 sections. There's clubs that actually aren't aligned to the sporting club, like the tennis club. But what happens, all of them actually have an attitude that they're part of a village. And that attitude is they try to work together to maximise the investment from the community. And this is a perfect example of that, where the baseball club has worked with the women's cricket club and worked with the women's football club to actually develop a multi-purpose facility and pavilion that we're actually funding tonight through a tender process. It's a very good blueprint for other sporting precincts throughout Geelong to actually show how you can actually have multiple sports and multiple relationships and actually benefiting the community quite broadly.
Well said. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Any other councillors care to comment?
I might make a comment.
Please.
I don't think there's any question that the project's got real merit and is needed to be delivered. And it is great to see the baseball facilities. Mind you, you do have Stead Park, which is excellent as well for baseball in the north. Having said that, I'm fully supportive and I will support the recommendation. But I think, as we all know, as councillors going forward, we're going to have to be looking at these projects very, very closely, and in discussions with other levels of government. Whilst we want their funding, absolutely, but we're probably going to need more of it, because just giving us 50% of a project going forward may not cut it. We may not be able to afford to deliver these types of projects in the immediate future, and we're going to need to be really prudent about that. We all know that cost escalations are now not a fallacy, they are absolutely real, and are continuing to escalate for the current period of time. They've already suggested there's going to be 4 rate rises in this next 12-month period. So the discussions, as I said, with state and federal government in terms of grants and funding need to be more assertive going forward, so that when we are offered opportunities to deliver projects of this amount, that they are actually affordable from a council perspective. And if the community don't understand that, they could be really critical of us for not being able to deliver projects in the future. So it has my support, but just need to be cautious going forward.
Well noted, Councillor Contell. Councillor Grisbeck to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. At this point, I don't think there's anything further, and just wanted to congratulate the community that have come together in that facility, and especially call out the Lara Sporting Club and Peter Kelly as president have kept us on our toes, which is great from that perspective. So thank you.
For that, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Item number 3, proposed lease to Powercor, part of 155 Princess Highway, Nor Lane. Moved by Deputy Mayor Aiken, seconded by Councillor Grisbeck. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sullivan. This might seem like it's insignificant. We're actually just leasing a bit of land to Powercor. It's not too big and it's on Melbourne Road, but it's significant in that this actually is the tangible evidence of the council's decision to actually transfer the future heating of the Nash from gas to electricity. So this lease is part of that process. We have to actually build a new electrical substation at that site with Powercor, and it does require that we enter into a lease to make land available for Powercor to build the new electric substation to enable us to actually be one of the few aquatic facilities in Australia that are actually using modern technology in terms of electricity, which ultimately all our electricity in Geelong is actually carbon neutral because of the agreements that we have signed. We will be heating this facility with carbon neutral, and this is tangible evidence of the first step of that with the lease that we're agreeing to tonight.
Well noted. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Grisbeck.
I think Deputy Mayor Aiken has covered it, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Any councillors wish to speak? Councillor Mason, please.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, and I'm really appreciative of this initiative. It's shown in some respects great courage, but also great foresight. There's no doubt that it's an investment, and a very valuable investment, and we're putting our money where our mouth is in terms of sustainability and maintaining a zero carbon outlook for the future. So I'm grateful to the people who are behind this and to putting it into this position. Thank you.
Councillor Mason. Any other councillors? Deputy Mayor Aiken to close.
Further to add?
With that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Item is carried. Item 4, Tree Cities of the World. Moved by Councillor Mason, seconded by Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, and I'd like to thank the officers in City Services who've been behind this, and I'm sure that hearing what Councillor Aitken said recently about the tree climbing capacity of some of those officers, we're on a good path. But it really is our need to endorse the application as a tree city of the world. And I note that the closing date is today. So I think it must be closing date Geneva time, so there might be 15 or more hours yet. But I do urge the officers that if we do pass today to get on with the job, and I really endorse this. And Tree Cities of the World is an initiative of the Food and Agricultural Organisation of the United Nations and the Arbor Day Foundation to recognise cities committed to ensuring that urban forests and trees are properly maintained and sustainably managed and celebrated. And it's very timely, I should say, that COP15, the Conference of Parties 15, on the World Biodiversity Crisis was held in Montreal in December. So it's really quite timely. And I thank Mrs. Banto and Mr. De Coker for their inputs here, noting Mrs. Banto has often reminded us of our international responsibilities, such as in the Borough Charter. But I'll leave it to Councillor Cudwell to continue in the support of this motion.
Well said, Councillor Mason. Councillor Cadwell.
Mr Mayor, Councillor Mason has already said all there is to say regarding the motion and the report on offer, but I do want to mention two things that I think are relevant to this item. Some time ago, as a St Albans Park resident, I contacted Council about the street tree outside my house because it was diseased and in danger of falling over. I'm very happy to say that not only did Council come out promptly and assess the tree and had it quickly removed, but they also replaced it quickly, and the new tree is doing very well, especially given the 3 wet years we've had in a row. Secondly, I want to say that the Brownbill ward does have plenty of street and park trees, but at my end of the ward, where I live in the eastern suburbs, this is less the case. As a new councillor, I've wanted to hit the ground running, and I've already asked the council officers for an audit of street and park trees in my ward. I am keen to see that report and to make sure that residents right across the city can enjoy the tree-lined streets and shady parks so close to their residents. I fully support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Well said. Any other councillors wish to speak on this item? Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sullivan. Look, Councillor Mason has probably spoken about what I wish to actually talk about, but I think it is important to acknowledge Sarah Priestley and our arborists at the city. They've actually worked very hard over a number of years, and this is a public affirmation of the work that they've been doing. This is actually a strategic decision of council to actually be publicly recognised at an international level as a city of trees. And there's no other Victorian local government authority. I anticipate the City of Melbourne, if we are successful, will probably follow us, and it's good that Geelong actually gets, as the second city, actually gets one up on the big city up the road. And but what it will do, it will continue the strategic framework that Geelong cares about its trees. Geelong is committed to actually plant and increase the canopy associated with our trees, which we've got with our urban growth forest strategy. But what it does do is that it entrenches the council's commitments, and it was good and heartening to listen to some of the questions tonight as well too from the community that actually recognise that this acceptance, if it does occur, does have responsibilities for us as a council, and I think we are up to that challenge. You know, we do understand the importance of our trees and our tree canopy, and we are up for the challenge to ensure that we are a city of trees, and we're certainly worthy of this recognition.
Thank you, Mayor Aiken. Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have a couple of reservations understanding, standard 4 of the recognition talks about the allocation of resources and has a dedicated annual budget for the routine implementation of the tree management plan. Also celebrating achievements, so an annual celebration of trees, and I just want to make sure that that when, if this does pass tonight, that the budget process, it's included in the budget process. I don't like to just apply for things and then let them fall away. I want to make sure that we're actually engaging and doing the things that we said we're going to do. So I look forward to seeing those things filter through our budget process, and that's something that I'll be looking for if this is successful. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. Councillors wish to comment? Before I throw back to Councillor Mason to close. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. Thank you to all of the councillors and Councillor Cadwell for seconding this motion. This initiative will certainly enable the city to strengthen partnerships with other greening agencies and with other like-minded organisations. Joining the program will certainly support the city's sustainability initiatives, promotion of the importance of trees and the health and biodiversity outcomes they help deliver. Also the commitment to ensuring Geelong is a livable and environmentally friendly city in accordance with international norms. We will be always aiming towards those. Connecting to a global network of cities practising urban forestry excellence and meeting an action of the city's urban forest strategy to strengthen partnerships with other agencies. So a great initiative, and I endorse the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mason. With that, I'll put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Item number 5, Planning Authorisation, Council to Staff. Moved by Councillor Grisbeck, seconded Councillor Harwood. Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just another authorisation and appointment given to an officer from the delegation from the city. Ekasinda Ubert-Michael is the officer in question, and I think this is pretty standard practice across the council, allowing the authorisation to go through. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Harwood.
Nothing further, right? Thank you.
All right. Any councillors care to comment? With that, Councillor Grisbeck to close.
Nothing further, thank you.
All right. To the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Item is carried. To move into section 3, record of informal meetings of councillors. Can I, for the record of informal meetings of councillors, can I please have a mover? Move Councillor Murray, seconded Councillor Grisbeck. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Carried. Section 4 is planning delegations. Can I please have a mover? Councillor Asher, seconded Councillor Mason. All those in favour? All those against? Item is carried. Section 5 is for confidential, on which we have one item, being the 2022-23 community grants. To move this matter into confidential, can I please have a mover? Councillor Aiken, seconded by Councillor Asher. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That's carried. So we are now to consider the remaining agenda items in our confidential section of our meetings. With that, I'll be drawing the meeting to a close. Can I please have a mover to close the meeting to the public so we may consider these confidential items on the agenda? A mover, Councillor Asher, seconder, Councillor Harwood. All those in favour? All those against? That is carried. I'd like to thank both our virtual and in-person gallery members this evening for their participation. Thank you for being with us for the first meeting of our year ahead. Good evening to all those online and in person.